Hi, I'm Mandy.
And I'm Kevin.
And this is our van Dorothy.
In 2019, we began the conversion of our Ford Transit, Dorothy, to help make adventures even more possible.
She's in process of becoming our very own epic, self-converted home on wheels, because we know there's no place like home, for us and our favorite adventure pups, Hemingway and Maisie. So follow along with us as we visit some of the most epic places on Earth, from waterfalls and mountaintops to wooded trails and beautiful shorelines.
Hiking and outdoors is just the beginning.
So take a minute and subscribe. Follow us as we see new things, go new places, and make new friends.
There are just so many things to see and so many places to go.
And we are Jared's Journey.
All right, so it's adventure time again. This time we planned a little bit different of an adventure for ourselves and some friends. Typically, we're the hikers, the waterfalls, the mountains, the rock scrambles. This time, it's an overnight paddle and camping trip. So we started in mid-July, and we decided to go down the AuSable River in the Grayling, Michigan area.
If anybody knows this section of river, it's called the Holy Waters. And the reason being is that the trout fishing in this area is fly only, no possession. It's a very windy section of the river, very narrow. There's not many houses on that section of river, and it's just beautiful, beautiful nature.
Now let's go back to the windy. This girl, she's not paddled a lot of canoes before, like once when I was 13. So this was new for me in a lot of ways. But I will tell you, it's pretty easy to get the hang of it, and we had a lot of fun.
So back to our canoe. We are using a Radisson 12-foot canoe, and anybody that knows those knows that they're a very, very quick acting, lightweight canoe. It's a 12-foot canoe, and it weighs in at right around 34 pounds. So you really have to know what you're doing a little bit when you move such a light canoe around the river. So when we were planning this trip, we weren't really sure, since it was new to us, how far we wanted to go and how many nights and things like that. So group effort, we decided on just one night, just to make sure things didn't get out of hand. And we did have some others with us that weren't real familiar with the hiking and backpacking and camping type of thing. So we decided the one single night. We did paddle the first day for about 4 to 5.5 hours. It was somewhere in that mix, and I know that's a little bit of a span, but it's all dependent on the river speed and stuff like that.
And how much time you spend under a bridge waiting for the rain to stop.
Yeah, we did catch a little bit of rain, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of it. Luckily, though, we did have all of our stuff packed into some dry bags and things like that.
And the sun came back out.
Yep, it did. It was actually a nice little break. We stopped and had lunch and things like that. The first day was, like I said, a 4 to 5.5 hour paddle. The second day we were planning on only about a 3-hour paddle. Made for a nice little adventure. No pun intended, to get our feet wet, a little bit and see how this all works. I can tell you, just from this trip, we are definitely planning more.
So not only were we trying to keep ourselves in our canoe for this entire little paddle down the river, we had to pack all of our stuff for camping for the night and keep it dry. So these are, things you think about when you're packing. And normally we pack to backpack in somewhere and backpack out, and it's a little bit of a different approach this way because now you're more focused on trying to keep the canoe light, but you don't have to try to separate gear out quite as thoroughly as what we do when we backpack. So we packed a dry bag, which was 70 liters.
It was a 70-liter Earthpak. We got it off of Amazon, and actually anybody that's looking for a good dry bag, it was a duffel. It's a 70-liter duffel.
We'll put the link in.
Very inexpensive, and it proved to be a worthy piece of kit for sure.
So, trying to fit everything into a dry bag is a little bit of a different experience for me because I'd never packed one before. And then we packed our typical backpacking meals, just because once we set up camp, it's just going to be like it always is for us as far as eating. So we didn't stray much from that. Gear-wise, we didn't really have to take much different. You could see our tent set up there. We have
It's an MSR through hiker. It's a two-person, just a mesh house tent. We throw it's a 10-foot by 12-foot sil nylon tarp over top of it, made by Eno, the hammock company. We actually used our paddles to hold the structure all up instead of our hiking poles as we normally do, and it worked out just well. We actually had some tornado warnings that night, and everything was rock solid.
and dry. Because it rained again.
Yes.
Again, it rained.
Yep. So it was good to see, and getting our typical gear out in different situations. It's always nice to see how things perform. And I can't say, anything bad about what we've got. I'm very happy with it.
Alright, so we got to camp. We decided to spend the night at Rainbow Bend Campground, which is a state campground along the river.
Just north of McMaster's Bridge. They do offer, it's just walk up. They don't take any reservations. You do have to pay a small fee and throw it in the drop box while you're there. Handful of sites.
There were 13 or 16 or something.
Yeah, there's a handful of them right at the river that were group sites, which we used. There were 6 of us with 3 tents and 3 canoes. Plenty of space. It was actually really nice, and just short walking distance to the river.
And there's vault toilets, and there's a water pump. So you don't have to, obviously surrounded by water, but you don't have to worry about, getting water and everything else. So we got up in the morning, packed up our sites, and loaded up the canoes. There were some canoe races going on, so we tried to wait those people out because they were much faster than we were, obviously.
Yeah, coming out of Grayling down the AuSable, they hold a river race yearly, and this wasn't the large race that goes all the way out to Lake Huron, but it was one of the smaller races for some of the local people up there. And I tell you what, you are not going to compete with some of those paddlers. They cruise. They actually can make some wake off the back of their boat.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. So we got packed up, but we decided to, give them a head start and all. So then we got back on the water, and, as you can kind of see, we're just paddling along. There are a few cabins and cottages. Looks like a couple places where you can, reserve them almost as, resorts. That are available. A couple of things you can see along the shoreline as far as, call this number to rent and stuff like that. But really, it's just a lot of the river is just this right here, where you're just, trees and water, a couple different kinds of, what did we see, mergansers?
We saw some mergansers, some black ducks, your typical puddle ducks like your mallards and things like that. Some cranes and blue herons.
Oh, yeah. I think I saw a river otter.
Oh yeah, we definitely saw some river
Okay.
otters. Yep, those were river otters for sure.
I told myself that's what they were. They weren't, muskrats.
I did try my hand at fishing with one of my new rods. I got a Tenkara Rod. It's a Japanese style of fly fishing. Unfortunately, none of the trout were biting that day, but I fished this section river a handful of times, and there is some beautiful rainbow trout, brook trout, brown trout, everything in the section river. So it was just the wrong time of the year, maybe, and the wrong weather, but I know they're in there. At least that's what I'm sticking to.
Right. But I mean, it didn't matter because we did have, our camping food, so we were golden.
But all in all, it was really an amazing trip. Anybody into the hiking, and backpacking and things like that, has maybe done some paddling, kayak, or canoe just in their spare time, I highly recommend doing at least an overnight river trip. It was definitely fun. And even the group that we were with, some of the less experienced people, they loved it. They want to do it again as well. It was great.
Okay, so like Kevin said, it's a different experience. Totally worth getting yourself, packed up, get out there, get on the water, give it a shot for overnight. You don't even have to go nearly as far as what we did.
Total mileage on the river, we did 28.5 miles. It really wasn't too bad. I could have definitely done much longer, but be smart with it and don't overstretch your boundaries when you're trying something new.
And from somebody who was trying something new, let me just recommend, if the canoe ain't going the direction you want it to go, don't just paddle faster, because apparently that's how you end up falling out. Just saying.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for paddling along with us. Any questions, leave them in the comments. Any info on the river or this section of it, or any recommendations. We'll see what we can do to help you out.
And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks, guys.